Hello, my friends. It is Jessica. This is I Read to Relax, and it is time for my May reading wrap-up. I, like everyone else, am struggling with the fact that it's already June. I didn't read a huge amount of books in May. I read 7, which is perfectly respectable. I'd hoped for a little bit more, but I loved basically every book that I read. So I feel like that was a super successful month, even if I read fewer books than I'd been hoping for. But I have my trusty little reading journal here. I will talk you through the books that I read, let you know. Like I said, I recommend all of them this month. There was not a bad one in the bunch, but yeah. I don't even know what to say at this point. Let's just dive right in. So the first book that I finished in the month of May was actually a super quick and easy read. This is The Escape Game by Marissa Meyer and Tamara Moss. And I already did a rapid review on this book, so if you want more thoughts, you can check out that video. But what I will say is this is a YA thriller mystery with like an escape room theme. So the main characters of this book are contestants on a reality show where they are broken into teams and then they have to escape from escape rooms, and the teams slowly get eliminated based on, you know, who has the fastest times, etc. They advance to the next round or they don't. But one of our main characters is on the show for the second time, and in the previous season, her sister ended up unalived. And so she's back trying to figure out who did that to her sister. And then the other characters on her team are all there for their own secret reasons as well. This one was fast-paced, it was fun, it was super compelling. It was like candy. It was sweet, it was tart, I loved it, it was fast. I am kind of confused whether or not this book is a standalone. I'm hoping it's the first in a series. I got the idea that it was the first in a series, but then I haven't really seen any info about the second book. But I really liked it and I would read another one. So that's what I'm saying there. And I'm gonna check out more books by Tamara Moss because this was the first one I'd read from her. I'd already read Marissa Meyer's books and I like them. But I think this duo did a really great job. So that one, like I said, definitely recommended. Fun. It would be a really great summer read that you could sit out by like the pool with or whatever, because it's just that fast-paced, will draw you in. You could binge it in a couple hours kind of read. Really, really good. Then, because I was in sort of a Bridgerton-inspired mood, I picked up The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith, and I'm so happy I read this. This one is that Regency going to the balls, having the season type of story with the addition of dark, malicious fairies. And I loved it. I ate up every minute. So this book is set in an alternate England where the Fae Queen took over the country. And now every citizen is afforded the opportunity to make one fairy bargain. And so for the young ladies of society, when they make their debut, they see the queen and they make their bargain. And most of them bargain to be the prettiest girl of the season, and they give up 3 toes to have a pretty face. They'll want to be the best at playing piano, but they might never be able to taste anything again. Like, they have to give something to get something. And our main character is entering the season, and this year the Fae Queen announces that her son, the prince, is looking for a bride. And so they have the opportunity to compete for his hand. But if they do not win and get to marry the prince, they cannot marry ever. So it is a very, very tough decision with a potentially super high reward or dire consequences, because unmarried women have very little opportunity. This one was, again, very, very fun. I loved the juxtaposition of like that, the balls and the etiquette and, high society, with the queen getting up to some malicious hijinks and some dark fae aspects. So I am super, super excited for the sequel, which I'm hoping to read this month. And I will let you know how I find the other book in this duology. I finished The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, and this one is book 2 in the original Mistborn trilogy. So this is Era 1, book 2, and I was listening to this as an audiobook and, reading along at some points in my physical copy. I really like this trilogy so far. I don't want to talk too much about the events of this book because it is the middle book, and there would be spoilers for book 1. So instead, I'll just give you a very brief synopsis of the first book. So we have 2 main characters in the first book. We have Vin, who is a girl who's grown up on the streets. She's part of a thieving gang, but she's young and she's small, and so she tries to make herself invisible a lot of the time. She also learns to sort of manipulate what she calls her luck and like the emotions of people around her to sort of help things go more smoothly and keep herself safer. But what she doesn't realize is that she's actually utilizing a type of magic to do that. And when she gets discovered using the magic, the bad guy inquisitors from the government are after her. And the other main character of the story ends up basically taking her under his wing and saving her and training her to become somebody who can use the magic. They live in a kingdom, an empire, the final empire, on this world where there's an emperor, there's ash falling from the sky all the time, there's a ruling class and an oppressed class. They're magical creatures and things, but basically Kelsier, the male main character, wants to overthrow the empire, and Vin becomes part of his crew that is looking to help him do that. So that is the base storyline of the series, is that they're going to overthrow the empire. Like I said, I can't tell you much about book 2, except to say, again, the characters are great. The storyline is interesting. Brandon Sanderson is just a great author, so I'm really enjoying these, and I have started book 3. I'm listening to it right now, and I've been warned it's gonna make me sob. So I'm a little nervous about that, but I'm really excited to see how this trilogy ends. So that is that one. And then I read When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I also did a rapid review of this book, or no, I did a reading vlog of this book. So you can go watch that video if you want a little more detail. But I had tried another series by Sarah Parker and I didn't like the first book. I ended up DNFing it. So I went into this one a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure if I was gonna like her writing. And I'd heard mixed things about this book. Either people love it or hate it, but I really wanted to give it a shot because the second book just came out, and really great to read this one and be able to jump into the next one. And I'm really glad I picked it up because I really loved this book, really loved it. It is a fantasy romantasy, dark romantasy. And some of the plot points were predictable, but the writing is gorgeous. The Sarah Parker put together some phrases that I read and reread, not because I didn't understand them, but because I loved the way they sounded and I just wanted to hear it again in my brain. She crafted the words beautifully. The storyline is great and compelling. The characters are interesting and the romance is lovely. I don't want to give spoilers, but yeah. I highlighted a lot of quotes and a lot of them were things that he was saying about her and I was just like melting. But what I really, really loved about this book was it's got a sort of elemental magic, but it's based on gods. So the different elemental gods bestow power to people. And so like they're hearing the god, talking to the god, and using elemental magic, which I thought was really cool. And there's dragons. There's dragons in this book, When the Moon Hatched. The second one's called The Ballad of Falling Dragons. And the coolest thing about this book and this world with the dragons is that when they decide that they are going to give up this life, whether they're grieving, whether they realize that they're going to be grievously injured, when they know it's time, they can make the choice to curl in upon themselves and then basically solidify into stone, and then they float up into the sky as moons. And so this world is full of a sky full of dragon moons. And it's just so cool and such a beautiful way to think about grief and the choice of how to express it. My heart broke thinking about this sky full of moons, but also how beautiful it was, and just it's living in my brain. I think that concept is just so interesting and different and fresh. And so The Ballad of Falling Dragons is another book that I'm hoping to read this month. I might be running out of time, but I'm gonna try. And yeah, I'm excited to continue in this world. After that one, after When the Moon Hatched, I wanted to pick up something that felt completely different because I didn't want to sort of taint another fantasy world with the high that I was experiencing from finishing When the Moon Hatched. So I decided to pick up a completely different type of book. And this is Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke. This one is a lit fic. It's gonna mess with your brain. It is impossible to put down unless you're a person who hates the main character so much that you decide not to finish the book, which I've seen a lot of happen to a certain percentage of the population. But this book is so compelling and thought-provoking and has so many discussion points that I think are amazing. This book I ripped through and I finished it, and when I finished it, I must have yacked my husband's ear off for a good solid 20 minutes because I was like, I have to talk to somebody about this book and just tell you about what I just experienced, because it felt like my brain was doing mental gymnastics and it blew my socks off. So again, trying not to give anything away about this book, because I think you should just experience it. The main character of the book is a woman who makes her living by social media. So she's an influencer. She posts videos, and they are glamorizing the idea of being a traditional homemaker. So she lives on this gorgeous ranch. You know, they have chickens and cows and different animals. They have a vegetable farm. She and her husband grow their own food. She makes her bread from scratch. They homeschool their kids. They just have that wholesome, quintessential, traditional American life that people think was amazing in past years. And one day she wakes up and she is in the past and is having to live the actual lifestyle, not just the glamorized version that she'd been presenting to the world. And the book sort of is about what the heck is she gonna do now? So this book was full of a lot of unlikable characters. Everybody pretty much is a terrible human being. They've all made bad choices. They're all dealing with issues. They're all selfish or self-centered, or there's a lot going on. Our main character is basically living a double life. Like, she's presenting one image to the world and she is a whole other thing on the other side. She's very unhappy, does not enjoy her life, and is trying to convince herself that she loves her life. Oh God. There's just so much to talk about in that alone. And then when you find out what's really going on when things take a turn in the book, it took a turn and then took a turn and then took a turn and then took a turn. And then, like I said, I was doing mental gymnastics. I was angry at times. I was disgusted at times. I felt such sadness for the characters. This book just made me feel so many things and made me go, what the hell? So many times. I really need to find more people who have actually read this book so that I can talk to people about it, because it's a book that is for sparking conversations. That's what it's for. And I think it's brilliant. It's wild. It's a wild ride. And I do think people are either gonna hate it to the point that they're not going to finish it, or they're going to finish it and I don't know if love is the right word, but I think like me, they're going to be sort of awed by the experience and then want to talk about it a lot. It is perfect for like discussion groups, book clubs, yes. Okay. Oh my God. So hard to talk about that one without talking about that one. Then I also, I read Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And I finally read this one. I've had it for a little bit, but I finally picked it up and read it because I saw a preview for the Netflix movie. And I really, really wanted to watch the movie. And I was like, I'm going to read the book first. So, this was technically my lowest rated book of the month. I really enjoyed this. It didn't wow me to the point that I would give it a 5-star. But it is heartwarming and it is sweet. I really, really enjoyed the way that this unfolded. It alternates perspectives between Tova, who is an older woman who is the night cleaner at her local aquarium. And the other point of view is Marcellus, the giant octopus at the aquarium. And his chapters were so cool because it's a very different perspective. And they were just snippets. I mean, he's not like talking to anybody. He's not like crazy, whatever. But he is very intelligent and he made observations about the people around him. And he had his own distinct motives. And I really enjoyed seeing his part of the story. So this one, Tova is grieving. She's lost her husband. She's lost her son. She's alone. She's getting older. She's very sort of set in her ways and she doesn't like to talk to a lot of people. She's got a small group of friends. She loves her job at the aquarium. She loves her home, but then she falls and she realizes that she's getting on in years and maybe she shouldn't be living alone and she shouldn't be trying to take care of herself the same way. And so she decides she's going to sell her house. And after the fall, she can't do her job for a little while because she really severely hurt her ankle. So the aquarium owner ends up temporarily hiring a young man who's come to town, and he starts to clean, and Tova ends up basically taking him under her wing a little bit and to train him. And the story unfolds about the two of them building a relationship. Marcellus is woven in through there because he and Tova have developed a friendship, and then he and the young man end up developing sort of a milder version of friendship. But he discovers a connection between the two of them, and I really, really, really loved the first 3/4 of this book so much. And then I think what drew me back from it being a full 5-star experience was that the very end almost wrapped up a little too nicely, and it kind of felt like a Hallmark movie, which was just not quite what I'd been experiencing like to that point. I just felt like the end made things a little too easy in some ways, but I still really loved it. I will read this one again in the future. And then I watched the movie adaptation, and I understood some of the changes they made for the movie, and I still loved the movie. I thought the acting was really great in the movie, but I like the book better than the movie. So if you've only seen the movie, I would recommend reading the book. I think certain things get developed better here. There's more time in a book than a movie, but also I think how I said that this felt a little bit like a Hallmark movie, some of the changes they made in the movie wrapped things up even more easily, and so it felt even more like we're just gonna wrap it up to a happy ending. So yeah, like I said, technically this was my lowest rated book of the month, but it was still great, and I still really recommend it. So yeah, like I said, really great reading month. The very last book that I finished in the month of May was another audiobook. It was I had a moment there where I couldn't remember the title, The Butcher's Masquerade by Matt Dinniman, and this is book 5 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I keep talking about these because they're great, and if you're gonna read this series, 100% the audiobooks are the way to go. The audiobook narration for this series is spectacular. Jeff Hayes does such an amazing job. It is incredible. The listening experience is just so much fun. This series is a dystopian or post-apocalyptic story where the Earth has been invaded by an alien population, and they have created this event where it basically terraformed our planet into a giant underground dungeon with multiple levels, and destroyed a portion of the Earth's population in that process. And then the remaining Earth's population basically got a choice to participate in a televised reality TV show for the rest of the universe, where the humans can enter the dungeon as crawlers, and they have to try and survive the different levels. Carl was chasing after his ex-girlfriend's cat outside when this apocalyptic event happened, and so he and Princess Donut, the cat, end up entering the dungeon as contestants. And so now we are 5 books deep into the series, and I obviously can't tell you what's going on, but it is a series that, it very much feels like a video game or like a reality TV show is happening in front of you, but it is so much deeper than what it sounds like on the surface. You have this storyline, you have these characters that are going through this insane experience, and the running themes that happen are like Carl developing this found family as he's struggling so hard to preserve his humanity, as he's being forced to, make his way through the dungeon. So he's having to do all these horrific things to survive, and keeps reminding himself that he's not going to let them break him. He's not going to let them take away his humanity, and starts to sort of rally the people around him to the same moral code, and starts to gather more and more people who are like in this group that's determined that they're not just going to do what it takes for themselves to survive. They're going to do what they can to help everyone survive. God, I'm choking up because like I said, as much as you're having this experience where you're reading about these horrible things that's happening to them, and it's interspersed with 14-year-old boy humor. So you're laughing as you're almost crying as you're seeing people do horrific things. And they're cracking these terrible jokes because sometimes that's the only way you can get through those experiences. And you're just hearing them talk over and over and over again about like, I'm going to do the best that I can for humanity. I'm going to screw these aliens that are trying to screw with us, and we're going to survive the best that we can. I refuse to do the worst thing because I'm gonna keep my humanity. And it's just so good. It's so good. So I'm really excited that I believe there's 8 books out now. So I've still got 6, 7, and 8 to go. And I know I'll be reading them in the next couple months. Also on audiobook, because like I said, audiobook is the way to go. So, yeah, okay. I feel like those last couple books I was just really emotionally invested in. I can't like come down now. So anyway, like I said, I only read 7 books in May, but they were all great. They were all great reads. They were all fun. They were all exciting. They were all ones that really like felt amazing as a reading experience. And then like a couple of them, like I said, When the Moon Hatched, Yesteryear, The Butcher's Masquerade, like they're going to live in my brain for a long time because I just got so much out of the reading experience. So it was a great freaking month for me. And I am just hoping that I can repeat that kind of experience in the next few months as well, because hot damn, I love a great reading month. So anyway, I've yapped a long time, so I'm gonna wrap it up now. And you know, like the video, subscribe to my page if you haven't so you can get more videos in the future. You can see Valentine just sort of snuggling over there. She makes appearances once in a while. And let me know what your favorite book of May was, or if you read any of these and have non-spoilery thoughts and feelings, feel free to put them in the comments. I would love to hear more from you guys. So that's it for me for now, and I'll see you at the end of June with my June reading wrap up. All right, bye!